dare to speak up when it's necessary? Do you dare to speak up and step up? Do you dare to be challenged? Because a lot of people out there, they are afraid to get challenged by other people. And the first thing you can recognize them by doing so is that they basically start lying. They don't tell the whole truth, they only tell partial truth. And then something is going on. No one really knows what the entire truth is. And the thing that I've noticed with these people is that they like to confront you and say, well, it's your fault, you didn't do this, that, and the other. And the other one was so amazing. And he or she said, well, this life is not about the excuses. This life is actually about courage and stepping up. So I'm going to share the story of one of my clients. And by the way, the other thing that you just witnessed or heard was actually also about one of the things one of my other clients did. And that's why I'm so happy that this one actually she is actually doing the work. She is doing it and she is letting me challenge her. And I know it's scary at times, but regardless, she is doing it. And I couldn't be more proud than working with someone who is not afraid to step up. So going back just a little bit in time, what are we talking about? We are talking about someone who had gone through major trauma, and that's when I got in contact with her. We got to talk about it, and then a few months later she decided to be coached by me. So at that time I already had given her some pointers to think about, and at some point she decided to start writing about her experiences and being honest about what's happening. That's one of the most challenging things you can come up with. I mean, what if people are going to judge you? So, of course, when sharing her story, I needed to know, so how are you going to get this across? Are you going to use your real name? Are you going to use pseudonym? And more importantly, why are you writing this book? So is it to write your thoughts down, which I totally comply with? I mean, I think that's a great idea if you do so. Is there another reason to do so? That's what I asked her too. And she said, well, I would like people to not experience the same things. So when she started writing her book, she basically told her story, but I also said, okay, make sure that people know what to do and how to recognize when something is going on. So she started sharing symptoms and all that stuff, which I think is a very cool thing to do. Well, not cool, it's necessary basically. If you want to get something across, then you want to share with people, hey, this is what's going on. And this is how you can recognize the situation. And I have come to understand that when people understand what's going on, it's easier to change the situation. But then again, you can also change situations when you do not fully understand downright to the letter what's going on. All you need to understand is something is going on and it's not good. And when you do, that's when you can say, okay, you know what? Let's stop with whatever is going on, because I am not in control. I want to be back in control. And I need this to be going my way and not the way someone else wants me to live my life. So a number of clients who come to see me actually are dealing with situations where they don't see any way out. And Sometimes life is controlled by a partner. Sometimes life is controlled by someone very far away, maybe even in another country. Sometimes it's because of rules and guidelines we have, and well, we have to deal with those. It's called participating in society. But sometimes they are not equipped for the person, and then they need a little bit of help to change things. So when we are talking about partners, it's hard. It's hard to change things and to let go. That's when you really need support. In this case of the other client, this wasn't about the partner, but it was someone who seemed to be so kind, and yet this person was so controlling. And when we got to talk to one another and we got to talk about the book, I said, okay, so who do you want to reach out to? Which people do you want to reach? And as a result, she had to think about, okay, so are those local people? Are these people all over the world? Which language do I want to use when it comes to talking to people? And hello. So that's, of course, a very good question when you want to get something across, because I am talking in English, but I might as well be writing a book in Dutch. Well, actually, that's never going to happen because I like writing in English. But when it comes to target audiences, so the people you want to reach, well, that's a hard question to figure it out what it is you want to do and how you want to get across. But here she was writing the book, and I kept asking questions week after week. I just kept asking questions. Okay, how are you going to make sure that people know about the book? That was one of the questions as well. And well, that was a challenging one, because basically what I wanted her to do was go live on social media, or at least not go live, but at least post on social media. And then that question gets there again. How much is a person willing to share? Like I said, um, I I have clients who do share with me, but they totally do not want the outside world to know. And of course, at some point, especially when you're using white lies, they are bound to come out. The truth will come out at some point, or if it doesn't, can you really be helped if you leave out the most important part of what you actually need? But the one writing a book is totally different, and that's what I love about her. She said, okay, I'm not sure if I'm really comfortable with being vulnerable for the outside world to see. So she came up with a pseudonym. But on the other hand, I can tell she wants it to get it out there, because she is proud of the work she's done, as in writing the book. So I have to tell, when I go to her Instagram account, I can actually see, the cover of the book. I can see quotes. I can see, she has really incorporated a lot about her and what defines her. So whereas I draw pictures in my book, so my book, Uncover Your Mindsets, you'll see a lot of figurines, and I sort of made them like Fido Dido. I don't know if you still remember that character. It was from a 7-Up commercial, actually. But it's the easiest way just to show someone what I want to get across. A simple expression, a smile, a tear, whatever it is. Putting all the weight of the world on top of your shoulders. And what she uses are quotes from songs. And I have to say, I totally love that. That's a really good thing to do. And that's incorporated all over the book, little things which made her aware of certain situations, but also of the strengths that she actually has. So I think that's a really good thing to do. So what else? And I think this is maybe the most courageous thing to do. Writing, that's one thing. But writing and next, getting out there and talking to other people. Can you help me with the post? Can you write the prefix for me? What should I say when I go to a publishing company? And then actually writing that publishing company or several ones to see if they are interested in the book. Oh my God, talk about showing something that is really close to the heart. I mean, she put down her thoughts on paper, and even if it was a fictional person, it's still her, everything she came up with. It was her creativity, and it was something that she really felt passionate about. And then writing it down, getting that person, that main character, to go from the darkest of moments to getting out there and be really strong, and herself also getting out of that dark episode and becoming stronger than ever. I mean, wow. I really applaud that. So here's the thing. Today I was listening to Brendon Burchard. He was talking about how to get across. And he said, well, if people don't listen to you, it's probably because you haven't been firm enough or specific enough in the first 5 minutes or in the first 5 sentences. But he added something to it too. He said, well, in the beginning it was about, yeah, I understand where you're coming from. And then it was, yeah, we're living in a new world when you go and you look back on the COVID times. But here's the thing, and that's what's needed is, okay, now let's go do it. So, yeah, I know it's not good. You're not the only one. So, yeah, there is a sense of community because that's important. That's one of the reasons I like to group coach people or coach people, but especially group coach people, because we all can learn from one another. And putting one person in the hot seat, one can learn so much from that part. Okay, so going back to being honest and well, what Brendon basically said about taking that next step. So no more excuses, but really doing it. And like I said, I've seen a bunch of other clients. So some I know they have a hard time doing it because mentally they're so exhausted. But there are also those out there who deny that something is going on. So they may be drinking too much and they deny that they're alcoholics. So one moment when they're really depressed, they say, yeah, it's true. And then the other moment, no, it's not. And then at some point they may say, okay, yeah, I know I'm an alcoholic, but still we don't need to stop drinking beer or anything else. Well, that's denying the facts. And when you say, no, let's go get it, let's go do something about it, that's all different ball game. So let's see what it says over here. So Anna says it's so special when you take courage to speak up about what you have been through and put that on paper, hoping that could make a difference in people's lives. Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree with that one. And that could really be a main motivation, that because you're not going through it alone. Others are going through it as well. But when you are the one supporting them by being really vulnerable, sharing your story, even if it's through the main character. I mean, that takes guts. And yes, it's about one step at a time, one step today, one step tomorrow. And yeah, you'll make it. And sometimes we take a step back. So, for instance, when I talk about going live, at the beginning of last year, I went live every Wednesday, and then the months after, I would go live twice a week. And then at some point, when I went to Chicago, actually, which was in September, I quit going live after all, which had to do with I wasn't able to align going live with the one I went live with on Monday, and due to circumstances. And then when we were in Chicago, we were out most of the time. And then going live was actually pretty hard because either I was tired, but it was usually a completely different time to go live. And that, yeah, was challenging at best. Anyway, I needed to get back at it again. So I'd taken the steps. I had gone live twice a week. And then at some point it just stopped. And it had to do with several circumstances. I can list them all. But one can say, yeah, but that list isn't that made out of excuses. Whether that's true or not, and I'm inclined to say no. It's circumstances which happened, but still, despite circumstances, I could have gone live, and there were a lot of things involved, including that it was so much fun to go live with someone else, but also the quality, other people not being around to give me that little push. And at some point, even though I had accomplished it before, I stopped doing it. And that didn't work. So I had to come up with something else. And that's when I started to reach out to other people. So, like I do coaching, I needed someone else basically to get me through it. And being part of a program, well, actually several programs, but with one person in particular, in this case, Evan Carmichael, the YouTube expert, I told him, like, this is not going the way it should be. So he gave me some pointers, and every week I do my best to get back on that live on that show and then tell him what I've done. And every week we get a little bit ahead of what it is that needs to be done. So I'm still not sure that we got the right solution, but today when I heard Brendan talk, and he said, well, you need to get the energy moving, and you want to not just, well, Evan always says, get out there with a statement. So my statement would be like, a lot of people don't dare to actually share the truth even when they need it. And a lot of people don't dare to step up and speak up because, oh my God, what would other people say? That would be a statement. But doing it like 5 sentences or 5 minutes, that's a whole different ballgame. And I was like, okay, I can see if I can tweak that, completely different, give a different vibe, talk differently about things. And yes, I can share the entire story, go all emotional, which is normally the structure. But I was like, well, maybe in this case, not entirely, although I did share a couple of stories though already in this live. So yes, one step at a time is something that's so important. And today, well, actually a couple of weeks ago, but today specifically, I said, okay, I'm going to go live every Wednesday again from now on here on YouTube, using StreamYard. And for just to be on the certain side, I'm also recording here on Instagram. So right now I'm also live on Instagram. I'm using my microphone, and I wanted to use a different microphone for the iPad, which I'm using right now. But I I had all these cables, and the one thing I didn't have was the adapter to go from audio, so the mini jack, to the um, well, what is it called again? Not the lightning adapter, but USB-C adapter. So I didn't have that one. So I was looking, and I was, well, I'll just go live, and I'm trusting that the sound of the iPad is going to work the way it should. So here I am again, because I want to get my message out there, which is about speaking up and speaking out. And that's exactly what this lady who I'm talking about is doing. She is speaking up. And it's still a little awkward. So sometimes I also give her some assignments to do outside of the book. Okay, so you're going places. Okay, you want people to know that you're an author. So what do you have in mind? Okay, so I want to see pictures. Just record a little video. And sometimes the video doesn't work, but the pictures do work. So, that's something people are doing. And that's what's so important. Or I'll say, and I don't know if you've seen this actually, uh, go to the Starbucks, get a cup of coffee, and then list your own recipe. And if you're wondering how this is linked to speaking up, well, it's not about looking at the board and then saying, okay, I want number one. It's about, okay, the way I want it is with more milk, less milk, it's with this flavor, or I actually don't know, what would you advise me? And that way you take up more time than you would like to. And of course, everybody is in a hurry most of the time. So you want to make yourself scarce as quickly as you can. But by actually expressing what you want, especially when you do pay a lot of money for certain things, it's kind of good to get it out there, and let people know what it is you need. Well, one of the things I've learned in the last couple of years, and I'm still doing it, is the necessity to speak up and speak out. So a lot of people always say, oh, you're so, almost cheerful about it and you don't let it get you down. But that's because I'm open about it. And I know life isn't always easy. But most of the time I don't even consider it unless I'm like, okay, I need to prepare because I cannot get the equipment or whatever or it is I need unless I do it in time or get it in time or take it in time with me. So, and the funny thing is that I might worry about things like walking certain distances. And it's 3 times now that I've encountered that the first one actually wasn't able to walk that far because of not being used to it and also having trouble with the ankle joint. The next one was like, yeah, I usually take the car to go this far. And the third one was like, it's way too cold. But it's the speaking up, which I did in advance, which helped me to prepare and ask, okay, so if we're going to walk, can we sit down? Okay, so back to the comments. It's so amazing when you realize how many steps you had when you think about how weak you were and the great change that you had. So you see that you needed a push. Yeah, and that's really true because it's not unless there's some sort of accountability that we actually do it. And that's the funny thing because if we talk about accountability, those who are really scared and possibly really ashamed. They know they need to push, they promise it, but they don't live up to it. And that's why I started this show by saying there are people who do not dare to speak the truth. They use little white lies, and one lie leads to another. And basically, it's so hard to help people who are not completely honest. But when you are willing to do the work and admit what it is you need, and talk about it, and not evade any questions, well, actually, the other one I'm talking about doesn't avoid answering because I do know it, but it's about that lack of accountability. So and this is the thing. I think the hardest thing is not even when you're are at that darkest place, because then people know how to reach out. It's after, when things are going to look a little brighter, when things are starting to get better, because then people are quick to say, oh, I don't know anyone. So that's why I actually like talking to people weekly, because that way you can go on, and you can go back to, okay, so I gave you some homework, and what did you do? And it's, I believe that it's very important to work with what the person, him or herself, is dealing with, instead of giving a random part of homework. But I still want it to be challenging, because that's the whole goal. The goal is to grow, and to get out of it stronger than you've ever been before. And of course, the lady I'm talking about, like I said, she did the work. She started to write about everything. She started to write down the story, and the main character experienced it all. And, not just doing that, but also really addressing people to get that story shared, to get that book published. I was like, wow. And then, of course, one of the hardest thing, the whole writing is not even the hardest part, even though it's being vulnerable. The hardest part is the whole marketing behind it. So you either need someone to do it for you, but better is to also do something on social media yourself. And I could tell, oh, that was a struggle to do that, to get out to the world and not just be known as, say, the day-to-day profession, but also being the writer. But then again, when people recognize you for doing that other thing, that thing that really helps you grow, that excitement that you get, that excitement, that's truly amazing. And that's when you know, yes, I did it. And just like when you're going through those really dark times, and things can help you get back to that moment called triggers, you can also use those triggers to get back to the good moments in life. And whereas she now has a trigger, a happy moment, which has to do with belief, it will not only function for writing books and getting that book out there, it will also help when dealing with other things, which, by the way, are still related to the whole speaking up thing. Because showing yourself, showing what you need, but also showing your vulnerable side, and possibly being exposed to what other people might think or say, that's kind of scary. So, if you are one of those people who could use some tough love, just to call it that way, then find me. And if you want to start speaking up and speaking out, then go to the link, which I will post later on. But for now, I also want to ask you, what is it that you are not doing? What you can use the courage for to go do it. And I bet it has to do with being vulnerable. But let's go beyond being vulnerable. Let's go beyond hiding because vulnerable is scary. And let's go do what the lady I talked about in this live has been doing, getting out there one step at a time, showing something on social media, addressing the people. You can print a book, but also asking friends, oh, can you help me out? Write a little something. How do I share it? And that's when you take those steps, one step at a time, that you get going. But sometimes you do need a little push, or maybe more than a little push. And, if you're up for it, I'm the one who is not afraid to give you some tough love. It's about stepping up and speaking up. So go do it.